Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
And welcome into the show, everybody. I'm Mundungus Creevy, joined today by my co-host Bri, Cameron Parker, and Glenn Hauser. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share, comment, and turn on notifications so that you can get alerted anytime we go live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, tune in to all of our other podcasts. Broncos Talk every Tuesday at 7654. The MHRT podcast every Thursday at 7654. And the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast every Friday at 7654. Merry Christmas the day after, y'all. What's up?
What is up? I'm happy to be here with you all. Merry Christmas.
I feel like I'm eating too much, but yeah, I'm good.
Merry Christmas.
Is there a rule that like once Christmas is over, we can't talk about it anymore? It's just done.
Unless you're in Whoville.
Oh, that's true.
Wow. I don't know. I think you get like a day or two.
Okay.
like a day or two, and then it's like, okay, I'm done. No more.
I was gonna say, unless you're working like in retail or grocery stores, they're probably putting up, Valentine already. They're probably putting up the stuff for Valentine already.
They're already putting up decorations for next year's Christmas. Like, okay, let's go.
I know some people who have already taken down their Christmas tree, so.
I just put mine up like 2 weeks ago. I'm not taking it down yet. I'm getting my usage out of that thing.
So I don't know. I don't know if I would ever like take down the Christmas tree like a day after, like the day after Christmas. But I think we typically like wait a week or so before we start taking our Christmas decorations down. So we kind of give it a little bit. But no, yeah, it's definitely. Between fall and like winter, it's like my favorite time of year. So it's like, because I think that fall is like the perfect transition to winter. And so and then not to mention, you already get full enough with Thanksgiving, right? So then you decide to, what do you think as far as resting up, with all your meals and stuff like that. Then you have a huge dinner with Christmas. So it feels like you've all finished this with Thanksgiving. Oh no, you have your Christmas dinner. So it
is a massive jug of water.
I was just going to say, Bri got an industrial drum of water for Christmas, it looks like.
You got to stay hydrated, man.
She got so smashed yesterday. She's trying to re-intake all her water at once.
I didn't have any alcohol on Baby Jesus' Day. Thank you very much.
Baby Jesus' Day. All right, let's take a quick spin around the NFL. We've got some scores coming in. Detroit and Atlanta are tied 10-10 at the beginning of the third. Tampa Bay is at halftime over. Tampa Bay is beating Carolina 19-6 at halftime. Cincinnati is beating Baltimore 31-14 at halftime. Holy crap!
That's good.
Houston, right? Shouldn't the Bengals lose?
No, we need the Bengals to win that division. Baltimore's falling apart, so let's let that slide. Let's let that slide keep going.
Houston is up over the Chargers 17-12. The Rams are beating the Vikings 13-3. Buffalo's over New England 17-7. That surprises me a little bit. And then Jacksonville's losing to the Jets 13-12. And the Eagles and the Giants are tied 3-3 at halftime. And one of my favorite quarterbacks, Jake Fromm, is starting for the Giants. I love Jake Fromm. Always have. He's starting for the Giants. Yeah. Go get him, Denver. No, I'm kidding.
You mentioned the Giants. The reports coming out that they're going to keep Daniel Jones for another year actually has good play for the Broncos in that if they do in fact follow that rumor, we're not competing with them for one of the star quarterbacks next year.
Were we competing anyways?
But at the same time, like the Giants were, So here's the thing: is like the reason why it's such a big report is like I feel like do you guys remember the whole Eric Decker situation? You know how like there was some speculation of like where he might end up, and when you have I believe it was his girlfriend of Jesse James at the time, and she was a country singer, and so she needed that exposure, right? And so, in order to help the family, Eric Decker went on and moved to New York to be with the New York Jets, to give potentially himself and his wife the largest exposure possible. I feel like it's completely different positions, but I feel like it was like almost that exact same argument for Russell Wilson. You have his wife Sierra, who's a singer, or a celebrity, should I say, and you go to New York. It's almost that exact same type of big, massive exposure for her. And then, well, the Giants is self-explanatory. They've always needed a quarterback. There's been all that conversation with Daniel Jones, but this stuff coming out just sort of like, I don't know if it's just putting down like this huge like smoke screen, with everything that going down. But I mean, yeah, it is interesting that the Adam Schefter report today that they're not only just bringing Daniel Jones back, they're bringing Joe Judge back, Joe Judge back as well.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of interesting to me last night after that Packers game is how adamant the commentators were about how happy Aaron Rodgers seems to be now that things are kind of going his way in Green Bay. So, and I've been hesitant to even think that he goes anywhere, and right now it seems seemingly very unlikely. Do you guys think that's changing any, or do you think he would still even consider?
I mean, I've been on the train of Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. Like basically from the like, if he didn't move last season, there's no chance with the way that he's playing right now and how well the Packers are with Rodgers behind center that the Packers are going to be like, oh sure, you can take him. Like that's not going to be a thing. They will find some way to restructure Rodgers' contract so that he gets more guaranteed money over the next 2-3 years, and he'll stay put. He's not going to go anywhere.
I'm in total agreement with you, Mike, on that. But what's strange is all the national media still is saying that this is his swan song, and I don't understand the rationale. One, why he would want to leave a team that is so jacked right now, and two, he really doesn't have any leverage aside from saying that he's going to retire and that they're going to be left empty-handed as far as not getting any compensation. So I can't picture him leaving. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, and even from the standpoint of just the overall Bronco quarterback perspective, like again, you can't throw your eggs in one basket and saying like, hey, Aaron Rodgers is going to be becoming available. And I thought that's why Stoya's tweet yesterday was, imperative to sort of like rehash that argument. So it's because, franchise quarterbacks don't grow on trees. I mean, you can go after these quarterbacks. You can go after, it's something we talked about before, but it's like, you can go after these Aaron Rodgers. You can go after these Russell Wilsons and stuff like that. But it's like, there's no saying that it's actually going to happen. Like there's still things that have to be taken place in order for it to happen. And it's one of the reasons why probably this last offseason was probably the best case offseason if Rodgers was going to be a Denver Bronco. Unfortunately, things just never materialized in that front. So, and so it's just like you can't bank on that all the time. It's one of the reasons why, getting your quarterback, should I say, like in the draft is way more easier to predict than, getting something like an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson. As much as we all want that, like, we all definitely want that. One thing I was going to say though is I don't want the Broncos to like be all hesitant and not throw darts, because of the fact they aren't getting their guy. They still should throw darts against the wall and hope they can finally get their guy. So I mean, like, I don't know who that will be. I think was it Benjamin Albright yesterday also sort of tweet a little bit of a cliffhanger potentially of like maybe if the Broncos wouldn't be interested in Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, would you be interested as a fan in Baker Mayfield?
No. Negatron. No.
Is there Is there a specific reason outside of his just inconsistency?
I mean, honestly, and this is just my opinion. I don't think Baker Mayfield is worth the first overall pick. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I mean, I think he's a better than average, but that's about it. I mean,
Is
he's
he better than
consistent
what
at
we have
times.
in Teddy Bridgewater and Locke?
Oh, come on, Mike. He's playing hurt.
Yes,
Really.
yes. Baker is. I guess it kind of depends on. I mean, Baker and Teddy are kind of the same, as in they are game manager types. Baker Mayfield is a better game manager than Teddy Bridgewater is. Do I think that Baker Mayfield is more accurate than Teddy? No. Do I think that Baker's is definitely more willing to take more chances? Absolutely. Do I think that Baker Mayfield is like a put the team on your shoulders and can carry you to the playoffs? No. But is he better than Bridgewater? Yes. As in he'd take more chances and push the ball down the field. But I don't think he's a more accurate quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater.
See, I don't even think he's
I jump on that, Cameron.
No, I don't even think he's a game manager. He's a gunslinger, and that's one of the reasons why he's such like the comparison for Drew. I do think it would be a little bit ironic if the Broncos acquired Baker, considering the fact of if you go back to 2018, the Broncos were like heavy interested in Baker Mayfield at that time. Like they met with him like 4 or 5 times in that span of that year, back when Gary Kubiak, I think was like when Gary Kubiak was like going into the, what was it? No, it was the Vance Joseph era. 6 years all sort of run together. What can I say?
Plus, when you've tried to bury those memories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's the scene from The Grinch? You know, how to get rid of those pesky memories, and he bangs himself over the head. Yeah.
Isn't that kind of the reasoning behind drafting and cultivating your own quarterback, which has not panned out well for the Denver Broncos because of how frustrating and struggling the team can be behind a middling QB? And I think that's a lot of what the choices are out there. So you either get somewhere from 10 to 25 ranked, and you kind of know where they land. And so I think Baker Mayfield, you kind of know where he's at right now. He doesn't have like a unattainable ceiling that you're going to see a whole lot more out of him. Is that enough for the offensive weapons? Not if he's turning the ball over. So turnovers are important. I think a couple of the other names thrown out there almost rhetorically are Jimmy Garoppolo and Gardner Minshew. And what are you getting out of there that's appreciably better than what you've had in the past? It's kind of the same note.
Yeah.
Well, I think Gardner Minshew gives you more of a question mark than anybody we've listed so far. I know we've talked about it. I don't know how much it's been thrown out in Broncos country, but Marcus Mariota's in there too. Let's say that there's not a Wilson or a Rodgers thing that's going to happen. Kirk Cousins doesn't go anywhere. Matt Ryan doesn't go anywhere. And all you have is draft picks and I'd say mid-level starting to low-level starting quarterbacks. Do you take a flyer on a Minshew to see what you've got? Do you take a flyer on a Marcus Mariota and draft a quarterback with either one, let them sit and learn while those two or one of the other takes the starts?
I think that's what's made this whole tenure with George Payton so fascinating, because if you think back to even this last offseason, it seemed like he was a little bit selective of who he was interested in. Now, granted, it was smart of who he was selective in. When you look at it now, obviously you want to be in on Aaron Rodgers. You want to be in on Matt Stafford. The one that sort of is been in the back of my mind is, now granted, it wasn't confirmed maybe or even denied, but the Broncos were rumored to be in on Carson Wentz. And look at Carson Wentz right now. I mean, Carson Wentz is probably playing as well as, as far as complimentary football for an Indianapolis Colts team who have won 9 of the last 12. I mean, so you're talking about, a system to where I'm perfectly fine, and maybe this is just being a whole year, but I'm perfectly fine with whatever decision George Payton has in mind, because if that first draft is any indication of where things are going to go, I'm perfectly fine that, let's just say the Broncos don't get a quarterback in free agency or via trade. I'm more than comfortable, giving George Payton the keys of drafting a quarterback because of everything that we had seen in this last draft. And he's also, making it, known that he's interested, or should we say visiting all these draft quarterbacks. So he clearly understands and is also very selective of who he's interested in or who he wants to go visit, that sort of thing.
If you all could handpick the starter for next year, who would it be?
I'm going to say Russell Wilson right now.
Ooh.
That's a really tough question for me.
Lamar Jackson.
And not the quarterback.
So maybe there's a question that comes in, and I'm not trying to preface it, right? My answer. I'm stalling, but what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So
I think the giant jug of water's coming next.
Yeah, I'm gonna just start drinking. I gotta finish this first. My throat's
Let me
scratchy. But if we don't know what's going to come first, right? The plan at coaching staff and whether or not Vic Fangio stays, we get a new offensive coordinator, and those pieces work themselves out. And then we decide on a quarterback. Cause like I get Cam's point of view of getting a rookie if AB doesn't work out, but then who do they sit behind? You almost have to consider Drew probably can build a trade market for himself in the last 3 games. Teddy Bridgewater's asking for quite a bit, but what are the other QBs looking like in Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan area? Sort of who sits behind the QB, or are we going to try the whole thing where we start them again their first year and see what happens? So I don't feel comfortable making a decision right now because I don't know what the rest of it's going to look like.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I think,
Oh, I was going to say, is Kirk Cousins like one of the most unlikable players in recent memory? I would not be a fan of that. I don't like the guy. I don't know why.
He's one of those guys where there's no actual reason to not like him. You just don't. Like, I just don't like him.
He's got a punchable face.
He's got a punchable face.
And what's so weird is, like, I liked the guy. Like, back in, funny enough, 2018, like when the Broncos went and traded for Case Keenum, like I wanted the guy. Like, I mean, like that was the fallback plan, or should we say was the Woody Page report. Like John Elway wanted Kirk Cousins and Mike Shanahan, and Joe Ellis wanted to keep Vance Joseph and get Case Keenum. We all know which plan ended up working out, but it was just like, like I liked the guy. It was just one of the things that I was so turned off with Kirk was this whole free agency tour and how he made this huge deal about it on YouTube and, everything else. And so that really turned me off on him. And it was just like, you don't need to turn this into like a LeBron, I'm taking my talents to South Beach kind of thing, and that's exactly what you did.
Well, and then you've got and this kind of goes with the game today and what happened in the last game, but to kind of segue into our current quarterbacks. So we have Teddy Bridgewater out because of the nasty concussion he got in the last game.
It was bad.
And to go with Bri as the founder and president of the I Hate Drew Lock fan club, I wanted to get your thoughts on, you talked about Drew Lock building a trade market for himself in these last few games. Do you think that we're going to see marked improvement from Drew Lock, or have we kind of seen what he's going to be and where he's going to go until he gets to another team?
I will be sitting in my rocker when I'm 90 years old, telling my grandchildren and anyone who will listen that he could have been something, or it would have been. And I don't know if 3 games at the end of the season is enough to show us what Drew Lock could have been with a full year with the starters. I think that was a lot of the frustrations with Broncos country coming into the season, is that he had shown marked improvement coming in and through training camp, and he was a different QB and a different player and more grown and more mature. And he's obviously been making some of the same mistakes when he's been thrown in a situation 3 times now where it's not ideal, and he hasn't had practice and he hasn't been working with the ones. So I think that you will see a difference in Drew Lock, especially with his confidence as he has to play out the last 3 games. If that's what happens, I don't know. In the back of my head, I think as soon as Teddy's good to go, Fangio's going to pop him in there. So my frustration there is we'll never really know. It'll always be this very like, well, it could have been, and he was uprooted and not given the proper channels to succeed. And when you do that, you really truncate a person's career. I'm not saying poor Drew, like he'll never get a chance again, but it's hard to know what could have been.
Yeah, and honestly, therein lies kind of what you talked about with the coaching staff. Therein lies sort of my issue of where things are going to go, because Drew, as we all know, does have the word that is always get thrown around every so often with players, but he has the potential word. Like he has that potential to be, maybe a top 10 quarterback or a top 15 quarterback. Like he has that potential. It's just, he also gets in his own way, unfortunately, with those turnovers and stuff like that. And those really bad decisions and in inopportune times as well. And what is frustrating is when, let's just say, for Drew, he, let's just, and this is by sure, magic situation, but like if he balls out and puts up like the numbers that Derek Carr, for instance, had put up against the Denver Broncos in the past, efficient football, like 22 of like 28 and like 3 touchdowns and 280 yards, that's a really good performance. And I have no confidence after the comment that Vic Fangio made this week that's saying, no, if Teddy Bridgewater's healthy, that Teddy's going to be our starting quarterback. And, it's just like, okay, Drew just gave you a 20, like an efficient game and probably arguably his best game of the career. Like this is all, in retrospect, but it's like, and you mean to tell me that you're going to be starting a guy that is now coming off of a concussion and again, and who also you chose to play 75% healthy over, sorry, it was 60 to 70% healthy over a 100% healthy Drew on a Thursday night football game. So it's just like, it's just one of those cases where, I'm not, advocating as a, pro or, against Drew. It's just one of those cases where it's just like, if Drew goes out and balls for like this game, he should enter a conversation of potentially playing for that starting job next week.
I'm really hoping that Teddy is out for the whole season, as far as just get healthy again. I mean, that was so scary. It looked like he was convulsing on the field. I mean, just Bri, you were there. What was it? What was the atmosphere like when that happened? That must have been scary.
The energy got sucked out of the entire stadium, and I think at first you realize he had gotten hit pretty hard, and obviously you're like, oh God, I hope he's okay. I hope he's able to get up. But when he didn't move, I think there was just me personally, I thought he was severely injured. Like I knew he was out. I didn't know if he looked dead. And like, I don't know how to say that without being hyperbolic. Like he wasn't moving, and it was scary. I think everyone was kind of shocked. Like you worry about Teddy Bridgewater taking those types of hits because every single one of them seems to really shake him. That one was really unexpectedly rough. I hope that, like you said, Glenn, that he doesn't go back in the rest of the year. And that has nothing to do with Teddy Bridgewater, the football player, the person, or otherwise. Yeah. I just think just smart move wise, I think he needs to heal and may need to consider going forward if he wants to continue to put his body through that, because every single concussion adds up. It doesn't, nothing to shake a stick at that. It's twice in 3 months. So another one or another blow to the head or another injury, it's not going to bode well for Teddy. And I hope that he heals up soon and can go on and find success. And even if it's with, like, I don't wish bad on him. I just don't think he should be out there any longer. No. He's gotten significantly injured all season.
Well, and I texted Bri when it happened, like, is Teddy moving? Like, is there any movement at all? And she's like, no. And I advocated in our MHRT chat that I don't think Teddy should start at all this season. I think he should sit, recover, heal. If he wants to continue to play, worry about next year. But for right now, and it's not a because he's playing bad or because I want to see Drew thing.
Yeah.
That's not it.
Yeah.
Your health has to come first, and if you're getting that beat up, and that's not even including the concussions that he's had. I mean, he's had ankle injuries, shin injuries, knee injuries, shoulder, neck, and now you're adding in 2 concussions basically in 4 weeks. It's, at some point you have to be like, okay, I have to think about what's going to happen 10 years from now, and if I'm going to be able to continue to live the life that I want to live. We got Prophet jumping in here, so I'm going to see if we can get him in here. Prophet!
Hey!
Hey!
He's at the Roomba.
How's everybody doing?
We made it work this time.
We are coming to you live from Lot B, just outside of Allegiant Stadium. There's a bunch of Broncos fans over here. We are live. How are you folks doing? I was going to say gentlemen, but there's Bri here.
We're doing good.
Man.
Doing great. How excited are you right now, Prophet?
I could not be more excited. I when the schedule came out and I saw that this was going to be the day after Christmas, I'm thinking, how am I going to sell this to my wife? And she could not have been on board any faster when she realized, you mean we don't have a Christmas dinner? Okay, let's go to Vegas.
Done.
And we're live on the Mile High Roundtable podcast.
Yeah.
There's a ton of Broncos fans here.
So we've been having the conversation about Teddy Bridgewater sitting and Locke starting. What do you think is going to happen in the game today with Locke starting?
Well, I was on the show Tuesday. My prediction was 31-17 Broncos. I am not shying away from that. I think that Locke is going to shake off the ghosts of last year's game and light it up.
Okay. So 31-17 is what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Locked it in.
Locked it in. Lock it up. Take it to the bank.
All right.
I was just going to ask him, what's Christmas in Vegas like?
You know, Christmas Eve was really quiet. I didn't know what to expect. Christmas Day was it was just crazy. There were tons of degenerate poker players like myself at the Aria poker room. And I don't know if you can see, that's the bridge coming over from Mandalay Bay, and it's just a sea of people coming over.
Oh, wow.
And these are all the people who did not do the advanced clear pass, so they have to they've got to screen before they get into the game. I don't have any idea what that looks like, but all I can tell you, Broncos country, is if you're coming to a game in Las Vegas, get the clear pass first so you don't have to wait in that line.
So Prophet, you mentioned that there's a lot of Broncos fans there. What would you guess right now for Broncos fans?
Are you talking like percentage?
Just throw out a number, any number.
I'm going to say at least 30% of the crowd is Broncos fans so far.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm hoping that number gets higher.
I mean, is it just me, or does Allegiant Stadium look like a big black bedpan? I mean, that's just what it looks like.
It looks like,
just throwing that out
to me,
there.
I think it looks like a Roomba. Which is fair because the Raiders suck.
Whoa, Nelly.
Scratch, actually. Right.
I love how Prophet's standing in a sea of black and silver, and he's just
It's like Raiders suck.
Well,
stadium looks like a Roomba.
We've been walking around the stadium visiting various tailgates, and the Raiders fans couldn't be nicer. They keep repeating the name of their team over and over again, I guess because they need to remind themselves who they're supposed to cheer for. but they have been overwhelmingly pleasant to be around.
good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, Prophet. Well, we're going to let you enjoy the game. Thanks for jumping in, and we will see you next week, bud.
Thanks a
All
lot.
right, go Broncos.
Bye.
Go Broncos. All right, so that's Mile High Prophet there at Allegiant Stadium, the Roomba of the NFL. That was funny. I like
How is it that the most
Roomba
clear,
because the Raiders suck? That's funny.
how is it that the most clear Prophet report we've had in the history of the neighborhood came in a way?
It's in Vegas.
They're
I've been
just
trying to get him on for
surrounded by
weeks.
The cell service around Mile High is absolutely terrible. So
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh, Drew Lock. Yay. No, but I kind of agree with Bree. When Locke came to Denver, all the talent in the world. Like, you knew he had the big arm. You knew that he was going to be able to make the throws. He had the talent. And I would have loved to have seen what Scangarello could have done with him. It seems like those two were definitely a better fit. Do I think that Drew Lock can get better and have a good career? Yeah. I mean, you've got, take Ryan Tannehill. He played okay when he was with the Dolphins, and then he leaves and goes to Tennessee, and then he's just killing it as the quarterback up with the Titans. So it's not that he can't. But my expectations for at least this game is I believe that I know what I'm going to see. Like, I'm going to see those throws where you're like, wow, that was a good throw. And then the throws that are like, what are you doing? Like, there's 4 of them. What are you doing? I'm expecting there to be more turnovers than we have gotten used to this season. Because Teddy's not a big turnover machine, or at least he hasn't been this year. And so I'm expecting like I don't know, maybe like a 320, 2 touchdowns and a pick, maybe 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, maybe a fumble.
So, Mike, the Raiders' defense isn't really that good on rushing and or passing.
Yeah, but they weren't last year either, and he threw 4 picks against them. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
I know, but they're ranked like the bottom of the barrel.
I know, and I'm not saying that Locke isn't going to tear it up, but I am, at least in my mind, I'm expecting, just so I'm not surprised, I'm expecting there to be like a "what are you doing" throw, where he throws it into triple coverage and they pick it off, and you're like, "What was that?"
Yeah, well, and for the Raiders, to Bree's point, like, they're also missing like what seems to be like 3/4 of their secondary. Like, I mean, like, what was it? It came out this week that Nate Hobbs was put on the COVID list. Trayvon Mullen was put on IR. There's another safety or another corner that was put on the COVID list or IR. Like, they're missing a lot of, and that's not to mention the report that came out on the offensive side of the ball that Marcus Mariota and Brian Edwards is the biggest one that was put on the COVID list. So I mean, like, the Raiders are hit hard.
They got Carr and Renfro. That's it. That's all they got.
Well, I was gonna say they have Zay Jones and Hunter Renfro and then Josh Jacobs, but it's just like. No, I think it's going to be a fascinating game.
Is Waller not playing tonight?
And Waller's not even playing.
Yeah, he's out.
Then perfect. We can't not win.
And we're still missing Kenny Young's out again, right? For back or neck.
And Draymond Jones, I believe, is active.
Okay.
Wait, so Draymond Jones is active?
Draymond Jones is active.
Perfect.
Hey, all right. And then we have I forgot his name again. Griffith. What's his first name? Jonas, yeah, Jonas Griffith filling in. So at least I had the last name. Filling in for Kenny. He didn't play bad. I wasn't really paying that close of attention. But I mean, I'm not going to go as far as saying he had a great game, but I wasn't saying his name like cursing him. So I mean, did he have a good game? Did he have an okay game? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to him that much.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun game, though. I really hope that the Broncos can stick to a script, and stick to the script that has been so successful for Drew and Teddy. Like, stick to a running game and stick to be able to use the play action. What I don't want, now granted, it does feed into Locke's strength a little bit, but I don't want them to get so pass happy with Drew. Like, I don't want, Shermer to be able to get like this whole pass happy. And, with the case in point, the Chargers game, but the Chargers game, when they came back, I mean, they were down 24-3. So you had to pass the ball in that type of situation. But it was just like, I don't want them to get into this mold where, they're throwing it 35 to 40 times, or maybe even 50 times. Like, I don't want that ever to happen, really, for any quarterback. Yeah. I want it to stay consistent, be able to throw the ball 25, sometimes, be able to run the ball consistently, and then feed off of that play action. I think probably the biggest thing I am so excited for, and this was a problem when Teddy was at quarterback, was the utilization of wide receivers. Like, I think that's the best part about with Drew being in there, is that he is going to be able to trust guys like Tim Patrick and, more importantly, Cortland Sutton, who needs the most touches of anybody, who's not a bum under the Christmas tree, and, who's a guy that is actually a really good wide receiver and probably the wide receiver one, although this particular season, Tim Patrick has been wide receiver one.
Yep.
And so it's just, and not to be forgotten and shouldn't be forgotten, I think Jerry Jeudy has a huge, huge game today. And so I think that, you now have the utilization of all your wide receivers in this game.
Well, and that's one of the things that has surprised me the most. We saw in the preseason the connection that Teddy and Jeudy had, and the last 3-4 games, Jeudy just hasn't gotten anything. Nothing's been going Judy's way. Even with Sutton, like there's a few balls that have been thrown his way, but not what you think would be heading his way.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Locke, I think Fant's going to get more involved. Alberto is going to be as involved, if not more than normal. And then Locke called out Jeudy specifically, saying like he's a guy that needs to get the ball. We're going to get him the ball. And so I'm interested to see if they're able to utilize all three of the receivers, as well as both the tight ends, as well as the running game.
Here's the thing with Jeudy, though. If you get him involved, he's got to make a play on the ball, and he has to be okay with it sometimes being a slot route. That's just not very – that's, 7 yards out. And I don't think he's happy with that because he doesn't get to showcase his route running. So I'm a little frustrated with Jeudy and Sutton with their inability to protect the ball. Patrick and Alberto are the number 2 targets I want to see targeted.
Well, and with Locke, there's the real chance that you could see a lot of play actions, a lot of RPOs, a lot of bootlegs. Like that's in his wheelhouse of what he's good at. And so you can see those short over the middle routes, and maybe we could see Jeudy getting some balls on the middle.
Well, and one of the things that's been, now granted this has been when Teddy's been in there, but one of the things like fans have been clamoring for has been the bubble screen.
Yeah.
And one of the best things to get Locke confidence in this game, and I know, we were talking about running the football and doing stuff through play action, but one of the best things that you can give Locke confidence early is being able to throw those short passes. Like give him those types of confidence, or should I say those bubble screens? Like let's throw some bubble screens to guys like Cortland Sutton or Tim Patrick. More importantly, Cortland, to get himself the confidence that he needs. But it is interesting that Locke and Sutton have this like interesting chemistry when it comes to being thrown down the field. And that is something that has significantly been lacking, with Teddy in there. He'll throw to Tim Patrick, and it seems like he won't try, or, try is a really strong word, but he won't find, Jeudy or Sutton the way that he needs to. But no, it's just, I think that for the Broncos, like they have to be able to get Locke the confidence early, which is something in the past Raiders game where he struggled. It seemed like they really didn't even do that. So if you can be able to generate that confidence early, get him that confidence of those short passes, whether that's a screen to Jeudy, get him in space and have him be able to use his type of playmaking ability. I think you can be able to use a lot of different assets in that bubble screen game.
KB82 says, what's Locke's over-under on turnovers today? I think if Locke has 1 or fewer turnovers, we can win the game. Do we have an over-under on Locke's turnovers?
I'm going 0 turnovers.
I'm going the under.
Ooh. Okay.
I could see 2 turnovers, but I'm hoping I'm wrong.
Jesus,
dang, I'm not even.
I feel like he gets so excited and presses, and that's. I want him to do so well today, and just in talking about Drew, and Bri is by far the biggest Drew fan on the panel today. Do you see him on the team next year for his 4th year contract?
Yeah. No, they may choose to just ride that piece out, especially if he's unable to get a lot of traction in the market. But a lot of teams are looking for quarterbacks, and a lot of teams don't have any better or the cap space to pay for them. So no, would I like him to? No, because I don't want to see him just sit on the bench. So
yeah. So one of the questions that I had that kind of goes from last week's game into this game against the Raiders. What were we missing offensively against the Bengals that we can fix against the Raiders?
Everything that's been this season, like I mean,
Points.
Points.
I mean, points and being able to take your shots downfield, and then not deviate from a game plan. I mean, being able to run the football and utilize your weapons correctly, and then also this has been almost like punched in my head ever since that Bengals game. But it's like when you have a 2-minute warning, don't throw to just your running backs. Like, you have your playmakers there for a reason in that 2-minute warning. Use them the way that they need to be. And like your running backs, they should be used as a last resort. Like if you're generating pressure, if you're doing all those sorts of stuff, like, or if your defense is generating pressure, then you should be able to hit the check down if your target's not open. So that's probably one of the biggest things that stood out to me. But if you have the ability to utilize every weapon in your disposal on a 2-minute warning, do it.
I agree with Cam because I think time of possession has been incredibly important for the Broncos. They've been really great at it. Driving the ball out, great. First downs, awesome. But if you're getting into the red zone and you're not scoring, that was our previous issue. Now we are unable to get past the 30-yard line. So points on the board, getting the ball down the field, giving your offense the best opportunity to score, and not throwing short of the sticks is going to change the game and the momentum. But I think it's mostly going to be on the defense to make some turnovers and have them go in our way. I don't want to see the Broncos turn over the ball, but I do want to see the Raiders give it up a couple times.
Do you think that there's still animosity between the defense and the offense, like there were reports of last year, or do you think the defense is not as angry at the offense for underperforming this year?
I will say,
I mean, you have to think. Sorry, Cam. You have to think that with the younger roster, that the answer to that would be no, because they're not used to having it's on the defense to win the games because the offense can't keep up. They're not used to that. And I will say that maybe not out of all of them, but out of the last 6 years, this is probably one of the better offenses that we've had, that's terrible. That sucks. I mean, a couple weeks ago, we talked about, wanting to see Locke in there just to see if we could get some energy, get the ball down the field. I still am excited to see him in there. I'm just not expecting a lot because then I can't be disappointed because I already expected it. But I am at like the last drive in the last 2 minutes of the last game with Locke in there. That shocked me a little bit because that's what we're not used to seeing is him checking down short of the yardage he gained and him just bombing it on the sideline, not anywhere close. But as far as the defense being upset with the offense, I think that kind of subsided when new leadership on the defense came in.
Yeah, and that's not. And I also think that no locker room's perfect. I mean, a Super Bowl team can have still at times animosity, at times like in a locker room, and that's just, because again, nobody's perfect. I mean, and for all intents and purposes, the win-loss record or the wins is better than it's been with Vic, in there now. I mean, they're at 7 wins, which is, better than, at any particular point. And they'll probably get another win or two in there, which is going to be better, than what Vic had in the past. And so I don't think that the animosity is as bad as it is. But that said, I do think there was a point in their season where it was really, really bad. When you're losing
between defense and offense, or between players and coaches,
anything, all the above. Because I mean, like when you have ideal games that you should have been winning, and you laid an egg in those types of situations, those can happen. Like for instance, we're playing the Raiders today. The Broncos, we'll be honest, should never have lost that game at Empower Field when the Raiders were without a coach for the first time. They should never have lost that game. They should have never lost that Thursday night game where the Browns were basically rosterless. They should never. So there are moments in a game, and especially that, and even with the struggle of that Washington game, even though they came away with the win, like there's moments in that stretch where you're just like, what gives? Like there's certain situations even in a game where you start to think about, where's this divide of a coaching players and coaching staff or players and players. The one that always sticks in my mind with it is the Cleveland Browns game where it was 3rd and 2. The Browns were driving and the Browns got called for a critical false start to go to 3rd and 7 on a drive where they were just killing clock. They were just killing clock to win the game, and they got that false start penalty to go to 3rd and 7, and exactly the play that is coming. It is a 3rd and 7, and the defense just almost like opened up like Swiss cheese to allow Dearness Johnson, who thankfully enough has turned himself to be a player against other teams. But I mean, it was just a wide open hole for Johnson to get the first down and win the game. Like there's just, I think, so I don't think it's like it's as bad now, but I think there was a particular point in the season where it was like right near the top as far as animosity.
Okay. So sitting where we are right now, we've got a few more games left in the season before we hit the playoffs. I personally don't think we're going to make the playoffs. No crossing fingers. We'll see, hopefully. But at this point in time right now, do you see any coaches that are guaranteed to not be here next season?
I don't know. It's hard to predict, like, because we talked about it before. Like, one, let's just say Vic is retained. Well, even then, it's probably more likely a lot more of those coaches will be retained. But even then, if Vic is not retained, you're talking about a coaching staff that might not even be retained. I mean, like, I think that they'll probably keep a few people, but be a team, like be the Denver Broncos, put yourself in their shoes, and you're in a job interview and you're telling the guy that you're interviewing, all right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep this coach, this coach, this coach, this coach. All right, now give me your staff, that you have in mind. It's just like, so you're telling me that the staff that I have in mind of who running back coach is, who offensive line coach, who defensive coordinator, that kind of thing. Like I can't, pick my own defensive coordinator, offensive line coach, or running back coach because, you already have a guy in mind. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's just like, so it's a pretty hard situation.
I mean, I know that we kind of waffle back and forth trying to figure out. I honestly believe that the front office knows which direction they're going to go. I mean, you have to think at this point that George Payton is already like, I know that we're either keeping or not keeping Fangio. Because it's kind of like you said, do you really think that the GM is going to be like, okay, I'm going to pick your offensive coordinator because you can't, and I'm going to pick your special teams coordinator? Yes, I said waffle. Leave me alone.
I
I'm
think
hungry.
that you obviously have to consider that Shermer's out either way. I don't think he lasts another year, whether or not Vic Fangio is the coach or not.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as head coaching goes, I thought for sure he'd be out, and then I feel like somehow he's going to manage to stay put. But I think it really depends on, like you said, who they're going after QB wise. I think that has a huge part in who gets brought in. Or does Fangio stay? You get Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson can control the team and the offense, and you don't really have to worry about Vic Fangio because he focuses more on the defense anyways.
Yeah, and something that's been talked about a few times here is, does he take a defensive coordinator position, and with this team? And I think that that's something we all should be thinking about, like in the back of our mind. You know what I mean?
Hi.
So I mean,
very graceful.
Because I mean, one of the things that I thought of is that Mike Munchak and Vic Fangio were pretty selective in their job interview process back when they were talking about, where they wanted to go for head coaching jobs, and both of them interviewed for the head coaching job here. So I think that maybe there's something that's, should we say, like, that was like in the white line. We were watching some of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, like those really small lines, like the almost like a copyright line, so to speak, like the important line that you have to read. But it was just like, maybe there was a line at the end of that contract that just said for Mike Munchak, they're like, okay, if Mike Munchak is going to end up being the head coach, Vic, how would you feel about being defensive coordinator? Or for what did happen, Mike, if Vic Fangio becomes head coach, how would you feel about being the offensive line coach? So I just think that there maybe there's something that's in there that we don't know about, and that's just sheer speculation on my part. But it's just like maybe there's something there that maybe Vic does get retained, because I think defensively and schematically there are a lot of arguments to be made that this is the best the defense has even looked, even when Wade Phillips had been here. And so it's just like I'm not opposed to keeping Vic, but moving him down to the defensive coordinator position.
Oh, I'm going to edit that out. Like, this is what Cameron said. He's the insider. And I think Boggins is drunk. Read that. 2022, Fangio, Hackett, Rodgers, Vaughn. 8 draft picks and free agents that want to play with Rodgers. Dude, how many bottles are you in, man? He's like Bri yesterday. He's like 18 bottles deep.
Landon and I actually have the Gamecast on my phone next to here, but the Texans just kicked a field goal to go up 27-15 over the Chargers with under 9 minutes to go.
And Baltimore's coming. Baltimore's coming back. It's 34-20 now.
Oof. So should we go after Josh Johnson next year for quarterback, or?
God.
Oh, I thought you were talking the safety.
Carolyn Brack says Chargers are losing. Is that good for us?
Yes.
So that brings up a question. Obviously, as fans, we want the Denver Broncos to be in the playoffs. But do we really want the Denver Broncos to be in the playoffs?
Of course you do.
You want the best for the team.
Because
but then there's the question. Like they said that the coaches would be retained if we made the playoffs. Do we want to make is that best for the team?
But do we know that was like a contingent decision? Like people say a lot of things, right? It's like, okay, you have a playoff mandate. Okay, you eked into the playoffs, but you know what? We're really unhappy with what you did for this team. I'll give you a huge contract to be the defensive coordinator. You'll be one of the highest paid in the league. But we need you to step down and step back because the best thing isn't happening for this team. I think George Paton could absolutely come back and say, you know what? It's not working.
Well, okay. and even to Bri's point, there's 2 different scenarios that the Broncos could be playing out here. One would be the John Fox situation. Obviously, we had Peyton Manning, but I mean, but it was just
Did he come back?
But it was just like, the Broncos made the playoffs with Peyton Manning and John Fox. And then the Indianapolis Colts absolutely destroyed us in the playoffs. And then after that game, or there were rumors that were happening because coaches were being interviewed for their jobs, whatever. But it was just like Peyton Manning. There were rumors that Peyton Manning went to the front office and told Elway, it's either me or John Fox. And, and they ended up choosing obviously the best decision, and they chose Peyton Manning. And then that's when Gary Kubiak came along. And then they even could, with this Vic Fangio thing, they could make the playoffs and, either fire Vic or retain Vic. So it's a scenario where too, I think that for what we had in the beginning part of the season where George Paton threw all the confidence in the world with Vic, and everything we talked about the animosity of the locker room, players, coaches, staff, whatever, it very well could be something completely different near the end of the season because emotions, where things are, we can speculate, until the dogs come home, but until we see the thing in the pudding, we won't know.
And I've spent so much time this season, especially in recent weeks, going, all right, so if they lose, that's good for us. But we don't need this team to win. And then the Broncos lose. We're not doing ourselves any favors in these scenarios. But at this stage, since we're on the cusp of the playoffs, if we miss the playoffs, we're still going to be drafting further out than we wanted to. I mean, in order for that scenario to make sense, Mike, it would have to they'd have to lose 3 in a row, and I can't see that happening.
And this is all like ifs, ands, and buts. Like we're just talking hypotheticals here because that's what we do. Because you know what, but like let's go with the story of Fangio has a playoff mandate. So if Fangio makes the playoffs, Fangio and the coaching staff stay. If they don't, they go. So at that juncture right there, is it better for the team to make the playoffs? Not Broncos country, the team. Is it better for the team to make the playoffs or not make the playoffs?
Honestly, I think it's better for them to make the playoffs. If you look at it, that we have one guy left from the Super Bowl team at this point. It's a kicker, right? And so anyone that has any playoff experience on the team got that experience with another uniform on. It's imperative that these young guys, even a guy like Justin Simmons, to get in a playoff game, even if it's not an ideal situation, even if we get blown out, whatever, at least we made it, and they then know what the postseason is like. I really think that when you have a young team like that, it would be very, very beneficial if we got at least one playoff game under our belt.
Yeah, and it's one that I think that especially for those players that need that type of exposure, like Bronco fans in Broncos country all know that Justin Simmons is the best safety in the National Football League. But even him going to the playoffs, but even then, like the Broncos going to the playoffs would not just benefit that, Glenn, but those also benefit on the national recognition that they would receive. Guys like Draymond Jones, especially. Draymond Jones, Justin Simmons, potentially Baron Browning, with what, he's been able to do since coming in. So, maybe even Jonathan Cooper, Bradley Chubb, just guys that you think aren't getting that type of recognition that you think. Jerry Jeudy, we could even throw Jerry Jeudy into that conversation as well. But it's just like guys that you don't think are getting that type of recognition. It'd be good to go to the playoffs even for that regard.
Bri. Just give me that face.
Because
it's tough. Like you want what's best for the team, but then what is best for the team? Like I know I want them always to make the playoffs.
Isn't that the same thing though with any subjective conversation that I think we've been having for the last full season of whoever choices, coaches, quarterbacks? Is it stats? Is it tape? Is it more turnovers? Is it punts? Is it yards? Is it field advantage? I think that it really, and I'm just not somebody who becomes very strongly opinionated to like push aside. I can see both sides, right? What's best for the team is probably George Payton is able to do a lot with a little as far as draft picks are concerned. Are you really hoping to target somebody who's in the 15 to 8 range? Like, what's your goal if the Broncos get a better draft position? Is that so they can trade up, trade down? Do you have somebody in mind? Right now, I don't. In the draft right now, I almost think you trade back to get who you're going after right now. So, what's best for the team right now? If you have a chance at the playoffs, you take it.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think anybody can argue that having Fangio running the defense on the Broncos is a benefit to the Broncos. And seeing, it seems like he's kind of built I'm going to run the defense and I want everyone else to do their jobs and just leave me alone. Let me do the defense. You handle the offense. You handle the special teams. I have no issues with that. If we can find an offensive coordinator that's not Pat Shurmur, because he ain't it. But we've also seen that there are times where it seems like he needs a timeout coach or a like a possession coach or a clock management coach. Like you want Fangio on the team, but then there's other aspects of it where you're like, ouch, I don't want him doing that anymore.
And that was the knock on Andy Reid, as years ago, is that his clock management and his timeouts were just absolutely god awful. And somehow he's then when he won the Super Bowl and has the Chiefs offense cooking the way it has been for the last few years, those concerns went went out the window. I just can't understand how a multi-billion-dollar organization doesn't have somebody that consults with that type of thing. I mean, the Rams had a guy that was that was grabbing McVay from like venturing onto the field.
You need like a pullback coach.
Guy,
you call him a timeout, smack him on the hip.
Right? How do they not have that? I think that would change. That would change a lot. I mean, how many of those situations or those challenges that didn't make sense? Let's get somebody on board like that. And Toboggan's comment before about Peyton convincing Fangio, I cannot envision Vic Fangio taking a demotion and staying with the same team that he just was the head coach for. And I honestly can't foresee any situation where Pat Shurmur remains with this team next year, even if we won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Ooh. Interesting. All right, so let's take our picks, our score predictions for the game against the Raiders today. What do you think? I mean, we had Prophet say 31-17 Broncos. What say you?
I believe I've been saying all week 27-17. So
okay.
I think actually 27-20 because I think they can eke out another field goal out of there. I really want to see a huge defensive showing. I think Pat Surtain could have a pick today. I think he can every game, but I think it's going to go to his side of the field tonight or this evening. Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, I'm taking them both to score a touchdown, and I'm also taking them over on their yards. I think it will be big games for both of them.
I'm actually going to say, it'll be. I originally had said, was it 20-16, and that was before all the news and stuff that we had heard about, like potentially like 3/4 of the secondary being out, potentially Brian Edwards, being out. So I think that this is going to be a defensive showing. I think, for the Broncos standpoint, for exactly the reason that Landon Clark brought up. I think that not being picked for a Pro Bowl, regardless of
crap, by the way,
regardless of the fact that it's meaningless. And I mean, I would much rather take someone who's an All-Pro over a Pro Bowler. But it was. But also, I think that to some players, I think it would mean a lot for them. And I think that to have been selected. So I think you will see a lot of emotions being played at an all-time high for this defense and players that were snubbed. So I think that, you'll see a true defensive performance for the Broncos finally, I think, on Derek Carr. I think you will see 23-6 Broncos. I do think we see a good Drew. I think my biggest key for Drew today is because pressure does get to him. The minute that pressure gets to him today, what do we get? That's the response I want to see from Drew, is if once we get pressure, what kind of bounce back we're going to get from Locke today.
I predict drunken Gruden streaking onto the field with running mascara on his face. I'm assuming you meant mascara and not massacre. I'm just saying.
Well, we all know Boggins, Mike. He can't spell.
Yeah.
This is why I bought him phonics for Christmas.
Glenn, did you give yours already?
No, not yet. I think the key for Drew today is I feel like he feels a lot of pressure, especially since last year and then as the backup. And I believe that he's the type of guy that needs something good to happen very early on. I would love for the opening play to be a bomb of some sort, like just send somebody out and let him just air it out. And even if it's an incomplete pass, some of those nerves, I think, are gone. I see the running game having a huge game. I think Williams is going to do great. And I think it's a bounce back game for Cortland Sutton. He's Drew's security blanket. And I really see this going Broncos way. 34-20 Denver.
There are a lot of times this season where the Broncos have had issues scoring more than 20 points. And while I understand that the starting quarterback is different, we still have Shermer calling the plays, and we know that Shermer and Locke do not play well together. So I'm going to go 21-16 Broncos because I have a feeling I believe that they're going to rely more on the running game than they did at any point in time last year when Locke was starting. So number one, there's a leg up. But I still have this feeling that there's going to be some YOLO balls that are either picked or, well, that's what I'm saying. Like Cortland Sutton is a YOLO wide receiver, whereas Locke is a YOLO quarterback. Like, woo, go get it. So I just have this feeling that at some point in the game, there's going to be a what the crap was that? And so until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to stick with the low on the offensive points. But I think that, and we're playing Derek Carr, so I'm going to spot him some points. 21-17. That's what I'm going with. 21-17.
I was going to say, you don't want to be the same as Boggs, right? Because he said 21-16.
I know. That's why I saw it and changed it. It was like, no, 21-17. I'm going to do the 1 point over.
That hardly
Screw you,
classifies as a massacre, by the way.
But with us running the ball, that could be the mascara. So there you go. All right. So we got, let's see. Landon said 31-17. And yeah, Boggins 21-16. Yeah, whatever. All right, so that's going to about do it for us. I'm not going to show Boggins. We're going to get ready for the game because it's the Raiders game. You got to get ready early. So make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on notifications so you can catch all of our content when it is posted. I also really, really, really want to thank Bri and thank Cam for every time you've been on the show in the past, in the future when you'll be on, because I know you will be on. If I have to stalk you, I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
That sounds like a threat, Mike.
That's fine. You can take it as one.
Mike's a Bri and Cam stan.
I am. Just like Bri is a Locke hater. That's exactly what it is. But I do. I want to thank both of you guys especially for the pregame show. You guys have been rock stars joining us on the pregame show, and I really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome.
So make sure you go Twitter.
Well, how do you pass up
them.
that payday? You know,
Right? The payday of respect.
Compliments.
But make sure that you are following them on Twitter. I got their links down below in the description. And make sure you're tuning into all of our other shows because we have people popping in and out all the time. Broncos Talk every Tuesday at 7654. The MHRT podcast. I almost forgot my own. At 7654 on Thursdays. And the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast with Johnny and Isaiah on Fridays at 7654. You can also catch the audio versions of all of the podcasts on the podcast streaming services. All the links are in the description. And just remember, the Neigh-borhood is a pregame show, so there will not be any Neigh-borhood during the off season. That would be a very, very boring pregame show if there's no game. So we got what, 2 left? 3 left? 2.
If you count today, 3.
Not counting today, so 2 more left, right?
2 regular.
Today's
Okay,
over,
so 2
Cam.
left. Yeah, we already did today's. So we got 2 left. So make sure you're tuning into those. And we're going to have some changes in the offseason. I'm not going to tell you yet. It's a secret. But there's going to be some changes in the offseason and for next season. Thank y'all very much. You guys go ahead and enjoy the game. I know that we will because we're going to win in the NFL Roomba. So have a good day, everybody. Enjoy the game, and we will see you later.
Go Broncos.